The first project is to democratize the market economy. To democratize it, not simply to regulate it, not simply to attenuate its inequalities through compensatory and retrospective redistribution, but rather to change its institutional content so that more people have more access to more markets in more ways, so that they have the equipment and the opportunity to render their action productive. Now, the immediate incitement to this renovation of the institutional form of the market economy is the attempt to seize on the transformative opportunity provided by a momentous change that is now taking place in the forms of production. A new form of production is being born throughout the world. It is characterized not simply by the accumulation of knowledge, technology, and capital, but also and above all by a new set of practices of production. These practices attenuate the contrast between those who supervise and those who execute. They relativize the distinctions among all specialized work roles. They mix up cooperation and competition in the same domains of activity. And above all, they transform production into an activity of collective learning and permanent innovation, and make good firms more closely resemble good schools. The problem is that the great majority of humanity remains excluded from these productive vanguards. They communicate directly with one another, exchanging among themselves resources, people, practices, and ideas. But most of the labor force remains locked outside of them, in the richer economies as well as in the developing ones. How are we to generalize these experimentalist practices of production through large sectors of the economy and the society? We must begin by innovating in the relation between business and government. We should not accept the choice between the American model of arm's-length regulation of business by government and the Northeast Asian model of formulation of unitary trade and industrial policy imposed top-down by the bureaucratic apparatus of the state. A much more promising route to democratizing the market economy is to establish a form of coordination, of partnership between government and business that is decentralized, pluralistic, participatory, and experimental, and that has as its ambition to generalize the practices of experimentalism and of permanent innovation throughout economic and social life. The short-term objective is to take this change in the style of production as an opportunity to give practical content to the ideal of socially inclusive economic growth. The renovation of the institutional arrangements governing the relation between businesses and the state would be only the beginning. We would at the same time have to reorganize the relation between finance and production, so that finance in fact became the servant of the real economy rather than its master, so that the long-term saving of society could be in fact channeled into the financing of this reconstruction of economic life. And then further ahead, these initial institutional experiments would become the seed of a more fundamental change. Alternative regimes of private and social property, different ways of allocating capital in a decentralized fashion and of creating opportunity for many, could coexist experimentally within the same economy. The market economy should not be fastened to a single legal and institutional version of itself. There is no single natural and necessary way to organize a market economy. The economic world should be so arranged that there is a permanent occasion to experiment, not just with different ways of combining factors of production, capital, technology, and labor, but also with different ways of organizing the activities of exchange and of production. Then, if we look further ahead into the future, two large objectives will become increasingly important. They are intimately connected to each other. The first objective is to overcome the predominance of wage labor as the example of free labor. Cooperation and self-employment were always understood by the classical liberal and socialists to be the superior forms of free labor, but then abandoned as mainstays of economic organization because regarded as incapable of satisfying the imperative of economies of scale, of achieving large-scale accumulations of capital and labor in the same place. Now we have to reorganize the economic order so that cooperation and self-employment can gradually achieve their rightful place as the predominant forms of free labor. The other long-term objective is to revise the relation between people and machines, and therefore among people. Everything that we have learned how to repeat, we can express in a formula. And everything that we can express in a formula, we can embody in a physical contraption, a machine. The machine should do for us everything that we have learned to repeat and save our supreme resource, the time of our lives, for that which is not yet repeatable. Today in the world, the majority of men and women are condemned to do the work that is appropriate for machines. But no human being should be relegated to the condition of a machine. This trajectory is therefore a trajectory of progressive reconstruction of the institutional content of the market economy, giving practical form to the ideal of economic freedom and creating a world in which prosperity and freedom are on the same side.